Good morning. So here's what I went over yesterday in class for basic shading. As you see, I have already um, placed the materials into the source images folder of my classwork folder. So to begin, I'm going to go to File, Set Project. Make sure the project is set to the class folder that you have stored your source materials. I'm going to open the scene. Oh, it's not that one. It's called Still Life. Deal with it. Okay, here it is. Okay. Now the first thing I want to do is place a material on the flower pot. So select the flower pot. There's many ways you can do it, so I'm going to go through several ways. Make sure your menu is changed to polygons. And you can go to Window, Rendering Editors, Hypershade. This window contains all the material shaders that you can add to your scene. It also lets you work with your textures, your lighting, on your camera. Okay, right here. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to place a Lambert, which is a non-reflective surface, on my pot. So I'm going to click on Lambert. You can see immediately a new Lambert is created. Don't change the Lambert that is already default in Maya. So double clicking on this will bring me to the attribute editor for the color. Simply click in the color swatch. Select a color of your choice. I'm going to put something like a brown. More red. Alright, something like that will do. Alright, as you can see, the color have not changed because this has not been applied to the flower pot. So there's many ways to do it. First thing I want to do is double click on this and right click, you can go to rename. I'm going to name it flower pot underscore matte. You can also rename it right here in your attribute editor. So with that selected, I can middle mouse click and drag and place it on the flower pot, or I can select the flower pot, right click on this, assign material to selection. That's the second way. And finally, you can also right click on this flower pot, assign existing material, the one that you have just named, which is right here. Okay, so there's just several ways to apply material shaders to your scene. Next, I'm going to put a material on the torus, which is a donut shape. Now the torus, it's going to be made of plastic, so we want the plastic look, and I think there's another shading that I forgot to copy down, so if you give me a second, I'll look. Okay, eccentricity and specular roll off. I have to put that in there. Eccentricity is 0.1, specular roll off is 1. Alright, so with this selected, I'm going to create a blend material. So you can also click in here to create a new material, which is what I'm going to do next. Alright, you notice that now there's two shaders on here. So in order to see this one, you can drag this up here. Alright. Where's my blend? Okay. Right click, Graph Network, and you'll be able to see this in full. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is give it a color. So I like blue. I'll make this ball a nice solid blue color. Alright, you can see there's a hot spot, specular roll off, for the blend shader. I'm going to double click this and name it ball material or torus material. And I need to change the eccentricity, which is the way the specular shading looks, to 0.1 and the specular roll off to 1, which gives it a pretty shiny hotspot to make it look like plastic. Okay, I'm simply middle mouse click and drag it and apply it to my torus. There you go. Okay, the next object I'm going to work on is the golden ball. So this time I'm going to select the ball, right click, assign favorite material, and Maya has already listed some common materials that you can use here. So I'm going to make it a Phong for gold. Alright, right click, graph network, so this appears and the ball material is placed up there, so it's the flower pot. Alright, so with this I'm going to first change the color, but this time instead of changing a color here, I'm going to change the HSV value, which is the hue, saturation, and value, and the numbers for gold are 40, 0.8, and 0.2. I kind of like it a little brighter. I'm going to make mine 0.414. 0.2 is a tad bit dark. I'm going to make it 0.5. Okay, you can adjust the color to your liking if you like, so it's not set in stone. Okay, we also need to change a couple of things for the gold. For the specular color, which is right here, we need to change the color to, the hue is 40, saturation is 1, and value is 2. Okay, to give the specular color a nice bright shiny spot. Alright, so with that you can see that immediately the ball on your scene has changed to a different color. Right, so at this point you can go ahead and render a frame to see what it looks like. So I'm going to click on this icon, and there you go. Alright, in order to see reflections for objects that have reflective surfaces, you do need to turn on ray tracing, which is not on by default. So to turn it on, you can click here to the render settings, go to the Maya software tab under ray tracing quality, make sure it's turned on, and then you can close it. And let's render another frame. I'm going to save this picture to compare the changes. So to save the picture is right here, save it temporarily to compare. This icon right here, I'm going to render it again. And now you can clearly see that there are some reflections on the torus object. And it also takes a little longer to render. Alright, so compare this picture to that picture, alright, with ray tracing turned on. Okay. Next we're going to work on the jar. So for this, what did I name this? No, I'm going to name it sphere material. Alright, for the jar, we're going to make it a Phong again. So I'm going to assign favorite material, make it a Phong. This time, I'm going to change the color. Because it's going to be glass, the color needs to be pure black. So you can do that, or you can simply drag on the slider to change it to black. Okay. The transparency color has to be white, so I'm going to drag the slider all the way over so that it is white. Coming down to the specular shading right here, the cosine power is set to 50. The specular color is white, and reflectivity is 0.7. Okay, because it is glass, it has refractions, ray trace options, reflections. Okay. And make sure you set the index to 1.5. There's different indexes for different glass materials. Alright, so let's render and take a look at this. There you go. Clearly you can see that this is a glass reflecting and refracting the objects around it. Okay, I'm going to keep this open for here. I'm going to select the last object, which is the vase, and I'm going to make it a silver color. So I'm going to right click, add favorite material, blend. I'm going to call this vase material. I don't believe I named my glass, so yep. Let's call it glass material. And with that, I'm going to change this to the color for the cylinder is silver. So the numbers for silver for HSV are 40, 0, and 0.967. Okay. Then you need to change the specular color to white. And I believe that's it. Let's take a look. All right. Okay, with that done, you can render a frame to check out what you have so far. We still got a little bit more work to do to texture the surroundings. As you can see, it's black, so some of the reflections are not as nice looking because the background is too dark. Obviously, in order to make this really nice, you need to add some lights. But for right now, you can see that the glass is reflecting the ball in the background. It's also reflecting the object that you can see through. As you can see, there's a bend on the silver vase right over here. And the ball is also reflecting the glass jar and the surrounding materials. And there's a black patch right here because it's also reflecting the surroundings, which is right now black because there's not enough light in the scene. So we're going to add some color to the background. All right. The background is currently locked, so you need to go to the channel box and click on deactivate the lock feature. Select the background, right click, select face. I'm going to select this face and shift select that face. Right click, apply favorite material. I'm going to choose a Lambert. I'm going to name this wall material, and I'm going to give it a nice neutral soft color, something like this, not too bright. Okay, all right. Now notice that this is still in the dark because there's not enough light. So let me show you what happens. I'm going to go to the perspective view. All right, I'm going to zoom out, and you can see that it appears to be green. So if I create a light, say I make a point light in my scene, I move the light up, kind of move it around. Turn this on in order to see the light effects in your scene. You can see that with the light, it is making a difference in your scene. Okay, so that's why it was black. All right, so finally we're going to texture the floor. I'm going to select the object, right click, select the face, select this face. This time we're going to add a procedural texture. So I'm going to right click, assign favorite material. I'm going to give it a blend to have some reflections. And instead of changing the color, I'm going to click on this swatch right over here. First I'm going to name it floor material. Click on this color swatch, and I'm going to add the checker procedural texture. These are procedural textures that are created by math, so they are not resolution dependent, and they're used quite often in surfacing materials objects in Maya. So I'm going to select checker, and if you don't see the effect, make sure you click on this button right here. The computer is very slow, and there you go. Okay, now these two colors represent the colors on the checker, so if you don't like them, you can easily click on here. Let's say I make this a blue. I don't like that blue. Something like that. And if I make this, I'll say green. All right, or not. Okay, but also notice that the squares are pretty big. They look kind of too large. So what I'm going to do is change the size of these, and to do that, you're going to click on the Place 2D Texture, and all you have to do is change the repeat values. Right now it's repeated 4 on the U value and 4 on the V value. I'm going to change that to 10, and then you have smaller squares. If you want it smaller, you can always change it to a larger value. Make sure that they're even. Okay, and we're pretty much done. So taking this light, I'm sorry, my computer is really slow this morning. It's having some issues. I'm going to move the light to a spot where it's the brightest. Point light is not the one I usually choose to use. We're going to work with lighting in another class, but let's say it's good for now. Okay, I'm going to go back to my shot cam, and then I'm going to render this frame. Now you notice that there are some dark shadows that are present in my scene. That has to do with the light that was used. So temporarily I'm going to turn off its shadows, because I'm going to go over how to fix these shadows in another class. But you can see right now that the scene is fully lit. The glass looks really nice and bright. Here's your golden ball and your plastic. The floor is a little reflective, so if you want to change the reflection, the amount of reflection on the floor, you can go to the floor material, go all the way down to reflectivity, and if I turn it down to 0.2, and this time I'm going to use the IPR render and grab this section right here and render that without rendering the whole thing again. You can see that the amount of reflection is a lot less. Okay, I'm also going to select the light and turn off the shadows for now. Instead of doing that, we can go to the outliner, select the point light, come down to shadows, and temporarily we're going to turn that off. It's a ray trace shadows, and we are going to render this part over, and the shadow is gone. Okay, so when you're done, render a frame. And make sure you save it and turn it in. So to save this picture, as you can see with point light, it's even adding some time to your render. So you need to keep all that stuff in mind when you're using materials and light. Go to File, Save Image. Make sure you change it to a JPEG format. It's going to directly go into your images folder for your project folder. You can name it Basic Materials with your name and save the picture. Okay? Thank you.